Hello Ivona, I see you there. I'm just setting up, as you can tell. So just hang in and we'll just keep going and we'll chat soon. Give me a second. Right. Greetings, hello Sarah, hello Ivona. I'm just setting things up. Thanks for hanging in. I'll just leave that as it is for now. I'm going to, I don't know, I don't think we'll be here very long, but I felt it really necessary to do something here. Okay, so I hope you understand. Let me get back over here a second. Alright, so this is my astrodoodle for today, right now, at this very moment, and for tomorrow, because today and tomorrow we're going over the cusp of the eclipse. Actually, let me add a couple of little more blips here. Pluto is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde, and Mercury is retrograde. I forgot to put the symbols in there. We have Sun, Mercury, and the Moon. Okay. So as you can see, I wrote a big fat scary red, like a massive skid mark. It's just like a massive skid mark, like when you're on the highway. There's people driving around, cutting up lanes left and right, and then somebody does something crazy and someone else has to jam on the brakes and they go over here, and then someone else has to respond and go over here. So anyway, I've talked to a few people today. I'm not like the rest of you. I'm literally just trying to mind my own business, live my life. I'm going to share what I can with you folks. Tonight, right now, it's Pacific Standard Time here in the United States, and we're heading right into the cusp of the eclipse, and it's on 20 degrees here. It's 20 degrees. of Gemini. So that means the Sun and the Moon and Mercury, it just happened to be all conjoined here. I don't know if you can see this. Exactly at 20 degrees. And here's the North Node. It's like at 10 or 12 degrees or something, but I wrote 3 circles here together to represent those 3 bodies, the Sun, Mercury, and the Moon. But they are so tight that they are essentially completely and utterly conjunct. So it's a very powerful eclipse, and it's very hard squared with Neptune. Let me add a little square in there. As you know, from watching this channel, when we look at the red marks that I put on here, these are usually very stressful in some way or another. And this is like super ultra stressful in one way or another. Now, of course, this is different for everybody else. This is like a generic view for the whole of planet Earth. Hello, Love Driver. Thank you. For the whole of planet Earth. And it's the same. I call this sacred geometry. Like if you had really fancy computers and you had the really expensive, astrology software, you could see the sacred geometry perhaps in a little more detail. Some of the softwares, you can pull it up so you can see all the asteroids, where they are. You can see where all the fixed stars are sitting, all in their alignments. And it's like a permanently changing kaleidoscope. It's like looking at a swarm of jellyfish, or constantly changing, one of those visual, I don't know, screensavers on your computer where it's just constantly changing and morphing. And luckily for us here, these patterns are highly predictable. Very, very, very predictable for hundreds of years into the future, and looking back thousands of years into the past. Love Triber's saying my astrodoodles are better. Well, the thing about my astrodoodles is that I go sifting and sorting through all of it, and I just pull out the really, really the most obvious, or the most important, or the most critical aspects. And because of the way human beings are hardwired, think of our brain. Think of the brain inside of your head. We always want everything to be wonderful all the time. But for that to happen, what we have to do is make thousands and thousands of decisions every day. And most of those decisions are to do with filtering out everything that is dangerous and fearful and threatening to us in our lives. Whether it's choosing what you have to get at the hardware store tomorrow, whether you've got enough stocks in your refrigerator, whether you've done your bank account paperwork properly, whether your finances are going well, whether your health is going well. You can take every aspect of your life. The way Western astrology does it, they just slice it up into 12 components of life. The self, the values of the self, communications of the self, the home of the self, the creative expression of the self, the tasks of the self, the partnerships with the self, the deep soul partnerships, and the merger of self with others, coming out the other side, going on to the big adventures of the self, the destiny of the self, your, let's say, place in society of the self, and on the bigger picture, your place in humanity, and then the end of it all, like where does it all end? And dissolves and dies, and then it's all born again. So, when we look at this little chart here, this is the Terra Lumination Astrodoodle, you can see there's a tremendous amount of pressure down here at Gemini 20 degrees. So, for me personally, the way I look at this on a global scale is that we are being squeezed through this evolutionary gateway where no matter how much the liars and the fraudsters and the cheaters and the scammers out there who are trying to take advantage of humanity for their benefit, they benefit from lies, fraud, deception, betrayal, theft, all of it. And the way they do it really effectively is packaging up all their fraud, theft, lies, betrayal, deceptions in a way that looks extremely attractive, okay? Which is what a lot of criminals do. And because they seduce you into the crime. And then it's just like a honey trap. You know, you get seduced by such and such a thing. You get drawn into something that is fake. And as soon as you are drawn into that thing that is fake, the evil ones clamp down and they just consume you. Body, mind, heart, and soul. That's how they live. They feed on people's soul energy. They feed on the innocent, the sweet, the loving, the caring, the benevolent. Because they know how humanity works. And they deliberately choose to take the other side of the equation for their benefit while they are here on this particular world, in this lifetime. That's how they earn their living. You know, I lived in a neighborhood over in Venice Beach, California, where there was so much crime and so much squalor. I couldn't take it anymore. And you have to realize that there are people who wake up every day and they are criminals, either very, very high-powered criminals wearing suits and ties, and they work in clubs and clusters, like white-collar crime, or it's just small, localized family gangs and so on. But it's all, they wake up every morning, and their job is to propagate their crime, their evil, their theft in any way they can. In my old neighborhood, most of the crime was to do with robbery, theft, rape, assault, literally just physical, good old-fashioned hardcore hijacking, you know, doing things at gunpoint. And it just got really, really scary. Robberies, break-ins, and all of that. Now, some people fell into that because they're junkies and they're desperate. They don't know how to get any more money to feed their habit. But a lot of the families are gang families, and they're multi-generational crime. And that's what they do. Okay, so judge them however you want, but that's what they do. Crime is their day job. And there are a lot of people who are not criminals. In general, most people are not criminals. So what I'm sensing here is that there are a lot of innocent people all over planet Earth who are starting to be very agitated and starting to wake up. Hello, Maria, I see you. People are starting to get very, very agitated by, let's say, the communications that are presented to them as truth, as fact, as knowledge, as information, as law. And they're starting to question it. People like myself, people like Love Triber, people like Ivona, people like Path Traveler, and a few other people that we know. We already understand what's going on, and we understand that we are being exploited, abused, defrauded through misinformation, disinformation, fraud, deception, betrayal, lies, deceit, especially when it comes to global finance. That's what's happening. And it's working very well. The global fraudsters are doing an outstanding job of stripping your wealth, your assets, everything about you, body, mind, heart, and soul, for their benefit. They are literally harvesting you. They are farming you just like miserable cows on a heavy-duty industrial beef protein factory. Same thing with chicken farming, pig farming, turkey farming, fish farming, okay? All those super intensive protein farming businesses have absolutely no regard for the animal themselves. It's literally just a business. How are we going to harvest as much protein as possible for as much profit as possible in the form of beef, chicken, pork, turkey, seafood, and whatever else they can. And they do it extremely well. And those industrial captains are now realizing we can do the same thing with humanity. We can do the same thing to groups of individuals, crowds of individuals, and we're going to harvest them. We're going to farm them for their output. And they do that through the financial system, okay? And what's happening now across planet Earth, I don't know if any of you guys are aware of it, but the crime and the fraud that is endemic to the global financial system is starting to be exposed. And there are billions of people on planet Earth now who are understanding this. They're starting to realize this, like, wow, this is really, really bad. There are people now in the Congo, in Central Africa, who are starting to revolt, and they're starting to collect their power and do things like find out if there's a way they can create a consortium to sue the mining companies who are trying to exploit the little children and the poverty-stricken adults who are mining all the cobalt and lithium inside of the Congo in order to feed the battery factories that makes the Tesla cars over here. Okay? So you have to understand, people like those big famous corporations where you just see it on the media all day, every day. Like there's a certain corporation which is spelt APPLE, and they make all their profit through child labor over here. Okay? And the TSLA's folks make a lot of their profit by harvesting lithium and cobalt from over here at super cheap criminal prices, turning it into something over here and selling it to the rich Americans. And so on and so on and so on. This is just standard operating procedure for global economics, all the way from corporations to the banks to the commodity traders, everything. And it's all in question right now. And everybody who is awake and probably older than 9 years old or 11 or 15 or 17, they're starting to realize that, oh my God, we are all completely and utterly connected, and there are vast populations that are being farmed by a very tiny number of people. There's an extremely tiny number of people who basically own and operate the whole of planet Earth when it comes to commodities and products and services and so on. Okay? Hello, T. Garnett. Greetings. Thank you for coming to visit. And they operate like corporations, and they're trying to make money, make profits for their shareholders. That's fine. That's what they do. But it's kind of got a little out of control. And if you're not aware, there's tremendous poverty in here, in here, in here. There are tiny, tiny microscopic numbers of people who are very successful in these areas, but mostly that is happening in collusion with the big corporations that are mostly run from the United States and from over here, CHINA. And at the epicenter of the control system, it's all over here. And so you could kind of look at the whole planet Earth like a massive corporatocracy. There's like, let me kind of do a little doodle here. See if I can kind of arrange this. Where did I see this? Who sent this to me? I can't remember. But oh yes, it was a beautiful movie called Monopoly, Monoply, and it was like a little mini documentary about what happens at the corporate level across the world. So at the very, very epicenter, we have Vanguard and BlackRock and Fidelity and a few others, and they own pretty much the majority shares in a lot of the major global conglomerates, whatever that is, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, blah blah gold, like timber, blah, everything, okay? And these are like about a dozen or two major global corporations. And those global corporations, they own other corporations like this. And so on and so on and so on. And so on and so on and so on and so on. Okay? Like so. And this shouldn't be any surprise or any news to any of us, because we kind of already know this already. And then these folks are sitting on top of management funds for trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. And the whole of planet Earth is locked into this corporatocracy, okay? Okay, now, there's another thing. Inside of this corporatocracy, I mean, there's a lot of other equity holders in this world, but these are by far the biggest ones. You know, there's also Berkshire Hathaway and folks like that. But when you dig further and when you go deeper, like this is from the outside, okay? The deeper you go, the deeper you go, the deeper you go, you find this. And then when you go into this, what you discover is that inside of that circle there, it's a bunch of families. Literally, families. Just like your family, my family, or whatever. It's literally a bunch of families that own the majority stocks in those clusters of V, B, F, and all the other little ones. Because there's lots of them, lots and lots and lots of them. But the big ones are here and here and here. And all these stocks, a lot of these are owned by families. And it's the families that ultimately have the say-so. And so if you look at it as a hierarchy, literally like a farm, like the analogy that I'm trying to present is like a farm. If you look at planet Earth, this is Earth, and that's the farm, okay, Earth farm. And what is being farmed? Humanity. And what is being farmed out of humanity? Money. It's simple. And the flow goes to the very, very top. Okay, so it goes from here to here to here. It's a never-ending flow. Okay? And what's happening is the folks up here, okay, this is at the very, 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 very top. This is next level down. And where was the other one? Oh, well, that's it. And then from there, it basically goes from here to here to the rest of humanity on planet Earth, which happens to look like this. Okay? So as of today, right now, we're looking at about 7.8 billion people. Half of that comes from here and here. Okay? Everything else is spread out over here. We have one of the smallest components over here in the United States. So it's very, very unbalanced. Most of the families that we're talking about, okay, in these little doodles, they're based over here, a couple over here, but mostly over here, okay? And they're very, very old lineage, okay? Very old lineage. And it's just how nature works, okay? This is just nature. You know, the big fish, the big fish ate the other smaller fish. The smaller fish eat the smaller fish, and then the smaller fish eat this, and so on and so on. But essentially it comes down to farming. And if you ever bother to study or read up about industrial protein farming for beef, pork, chicken, turkey, and seafood, you'll understand what we're talking about. You'll also understand that there's something very disturbing going on. It's like the farmers, I'd like to call them the farmers at the very, very top, they're realizing that they have this extremely abundant farm, but it's also getting a little bit overabundant. There's almost too many people. And it's just like what a farmer would do when they have to cull some of the herd of their beef or pork or chicken or turkey or seafood. What are we going to do? And that's what's happening right now. These folks over here are in a very, very dire situation right now. You'd never know because they're acting extremely aggressively like they're going to try and take over the world. And they really are, because they're desperate for food. They're desperate for land. They don't have enough land here. So they're very interested in basically running their business model of farming across planet Earth in such a way that works for them. Hello, Heather. I'm just having a bit of a rant here about the eclipses. And so there's so many ways you can look at the storyline here, like who is exploiting who, okay? But in general, it's pretty obvious. There's just a small cluster of people over here and here and here, a few people over here, who basically do extremely well because of this business model. It's literally a business model. You take it to the next level, the very, very highest level, over here. Okay, so we're going through layers. If you think of this as the Sagittarius perspective, the big, big globalistic view, a vast, vast oversight of the whole of humanity and planet Earth, and then we come closer to Earth, and then we come right down to Earth. We're looking at Earth in a close-up situation. The Gemini energy would be like the energy of your day-to-day life, your day-to-day world, wherever this lies in your chart. So what does your world look like to you? What is fake about your world? What is real about your world? The reason I'm emphasizing the subject of fake, fraud, betrayal, lies, deception, and theft, and disease, and squalor, and manipulation, and crime, is because we have this very heavy square, very tight heavy square with Neptune. The beauty of Neptune is when it's in its shining, beautiful, glorious, universal loving kind of frequency, it's like indescribably beautiful. It's the energy of, it's literally like the energy of heaven. Like after you cross over to the other side and your life is over and you've led a good life, you will experience the energy of heaven, which is sort of, in the simplest sense, it's like removing all pain. Your spirit is still there. You'll feel as though you're still like an entity, like a person, like a sensory being, but you won't have physiological form anymore. The shadow side of the energy, remember, like every energy here has its, loveless component. The shadow side of this is very, very tragic, very sad, very ugly. This is the energy of crime, theft, rape, assault, murder, suicide, drug addiction, paranoia, schizophrenia, uncontrollable, unidentifiable disease, and sickness, and the ending of endings, okay? So this is happening right now, And I think there's enough people on planet Earth who are starting to realize there's something very, very wrong with this picture. A lot of people are starting to, even people who are deeply wedded to the so-called mass media, are starting to feel like there's something wrong here. It's not everywhere, but most of the people that I am close to, we've already figured this out, and we are staying in the world of truth, okay? Sagittarius demands truth, okay? But over here in the day-to-day mundane reality, there's a lot of manipulation going on to, let's say, pervert the truth so that what appears true is false and what appears false is true. And it's very, very much in the interest of the perpetrators, or you could say the owners of the farm. It's very much in their interests to perpetuate the fraud, because that's how they make their money. It's crime, basically. It's human beings farming other human beings. And we're at a point now with this Saturn in Aquarius energy. Where is it now? God, I kind of lost my... I got too many bits of paper here. Saturn in Aquarius is testing humanity. And that includes everybody in humanity, not just the bulk of humanity, but including the hierarchy in humanity. Because the Aquarian energy demands equality and freedom and respect and an understanding and acceptance of all. And it's not working very well, because what the perpetrators are trying to do is turn this upside down so that they can maintain the plutocracy, the corporatocracy, the oligarchy, the complete and utter command and control of humanity and all the resources on Earth. Hello, KCD. Hi, this is opposing natal Neptune. Okay, well, good point, Casey. Let's just shift over. I can't save the world tonight. I'm just trying to do a little bit of a storytelling about the eclipses. So, for example, KCD, hold on. If you really want to dig into it, let's say you know about your astrology. Let's say you've already done your homework. You've got your astrology chart. You know your sun, moon, Mars. You know your astrological profile. You know your ascendant. You know your sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Let's just say you know all that. Okay? What could be really useful right now is to pull up your own chart, your natal chart, number one, and number two, your solar chart, because chances are they're very different. They are just two perspectives of yourself. And in each chart, I would highly recommend that you look for the position of 20 degrees Gemini. Exactly 20 degrees Gemini. Find it in your chart. It could be anywhere. Like on the global chart, it is right here in 20 degrees Gemini. In a Capricorn dominant chart, it would be over here in the 6th house. In a Libra dominant chart, it would be over here in the 9th house. In a Cancer dominant chart, it would be up here in the 12th house. Okay, and so on and so on. So you figure it out, all right? And that's where you are going to be tested. That's where the energy of the eclipse is going to be impacting your life. So it could be anywhere. According to the astrodoodles, it could be anywhere. Just follow this point right here, okay? That could be anywhere in your chart, okay? So let's get back to basics here. So wherever it is, that's where the ecliptic energy is going to be impacting you. So as you know, if you watch my charts, I feel that the eclipses are like evolutionary gateways. You're living your life, doopy-doopy-doopy-doo, doopy-doopy-doopy-doo, and all of a sudden the eclipse appears, and you don't have a choice. It's like you're being funneled into one of those double-sided door elevators. You go in this side. Oh, where am I? Oh, interesting. And the doors close, and the elevator kind of goes up. Whoa, what just happened? And then you reach the top, and the door opens on the other side of the two-sided elevator, and you walk out the other side. It's an evolutionary gateway. Like it or not, you have been jolted up to another level. You enter here, you rise up to here, and you exit over here. And there's no going back. You can't go back from here to there because the door's shut right behind you, just like in a two-sided elevator. So, how is that going to work out for you? I don't know. Could be anything. I'm going to have another sip. Okay, give me a second, folks. Right here. I love apple juice. Hey KCD, it sounds like you know a lot about astrology. So let me just go check in with you guys. Hold on. So KCD, as you know, when you look at your chart or anyone's chart, you can just, at the simplest level, the way I operate, I just look for the 10 so-called planets. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And we look for the placements around the chart. And that chart can tell you a tremendous story. You can look at your natal chart. You can look at your solar chart. And as you grow and mature and live through your life, you start to recognize that there are patterns. And that's what a lot of ancient and modern astrology is about really kind of old-fashioned. It's not necessarily hardcore science like they have in laboratories today, but it's more about science in the form of observational science. Basically, over thousands of years of observing human behavior, there are certain clusters of people over time who started to record recognizable patterns. And it became very, very sophisticated and very advanced over the centuries. And then when we got into the 20th century, it kind of went exponentially more complex and advanced because Uranus and Neptune and Pluto were so-called discovered. The ancient astrologers already knew that there were heavenly bodies out there outside the world of Saturn. At the time, the way the astrology worked, the only things that they could access was Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Those were the visible planets. You can see all of those with the naked eye on a good clear night in a good location, depending on the time of the year. And all of those patterns have been tracked and, let's say, charted for thousands and thousands of years. In the 20th century, and now in the 21st century, it's all like gone exponentially more complex and more telling because it's all computerized now. You can thank Uranus, and you can thank all the spiritualist understanding from Neptune, and you can understand what it means in terms of personal power from Pluto. And that's where it gets very scary, is with the Pluto energy. Because the Pluto is literally about the raw, undefined energy. And you'd realize that there is so much power just flowing in and out, through you, in you, out of you. What are you going to do with that? That's the power of decision making. That's the power of healing hands. Your hands are holy. What are you going to do with your hands? Are you going to do something loving and holy and kind and generous? Or are you going to do something a little shifty, like entering a fake trade up at some bank account? Or writing bogus fake information to individuals or to humanity? That's the absence of love in order to satisfy your short-term desire for power. And so on and so on. So today they have really powerful computer softwares, and they have very elaborate and very accurate what is called an ephemeris, which is an actual chart of all the movement of the planets. And when I do my homework, I can see patterns and patterns and patterns that cycle over and over again. But at the same time, every situation is unique. There are certain very precise, very predictable patterns. The eclipses, okay? The eclipses are very predictable. They've been very predictable for a long time because they have been some of the most profound astrological experiences. So people have been aware of it for many, many thousands of years, and they attribute a lot of phenomena or stories or events to eclipses. The word eclipse kind of describes the idea of something being eclipsed, like one hand is eclipsed by another. And that can be very frightening. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, what happened? Eclipses in general, the way humanity feels them, is that life is just bumbling along, tickety-tick, tickety-tick, and then events seem to squash and compress into a very narrow frame in which you feel you are literally being pushed, whether you like it or know it or not. If you're highly conscious, you will be aware of it and you will take note of it moment by moment, day by day. If you're less conscious, most likely you won't be aware of it till weeks or months or years after the eclipse. Over here, I'm hoping on this channel, most of you will be living very deeply in the now. Not dwelling on the past, not projecting into the future, but being utterly, purely present here in the now. Okay, see, I'm not going to do any really acute personal analyses right now, but you obviously know a lot about this stuff. So you're very, very lucky. What it does, if you have a very high understanding of your so-called profile, that gives you the ability to navigate and modify your decision making and your behavior and your perceptions as you go. It's literally like being a pilot on a very powerful airplane or ship or submarine. You have to have a tremendous amount of data and information in order to navigate in a way that is most healthy for you, the individual. The less aware that you are of thyself, the more likely you are to suffer from external, what appears to be random influences. Someone like KCD is probably more likely than others to be able to fine-tune and navigate their life, her life, in a way that you can avoid potholes on a street, or you can avoid emergencies in other people's lives, so that you don't fall into, toxic situations, toxic people, toxic environments. It's work. It's almost like the more you know, the more you have to know, and the more work that you have to do, because you start to realize there's a lot of psychic, spiritual, emotional mental potholes out there, and a lot of them are created by the farmers because they have a tremendous understanding about how humanity works and how to run a farm at that level. Most of the top criminals on earth are super hyper intelligent. It's just that they choose to channel their energy to something that is not very pleasant for their victims. Hey Casey, I would be very interested to find out your storyline. Like, let's say after this show or something, you decide to do a little bit of homework on yourself. It would be very interesting for you to pull up your solar chart, pull up your natal chart, and do a self-analysis. Like, where is the Gemini 20-degree point on your natal chart? Where is the Gemini 20-degree point on your solar chart? And then start to analyze that. Think about it, do the research on it, and see if there's any way that you can, I would say, exploit this. Take advantage of it for what is best for you going forward. How are you going to make best advantage of this eclipse energy so that you're not a victim? Instead, you're like a professional surfer. You know, instead of being crushed and destroyed by these waves, you actually surf them. See the difference? Okay? Oh, you've done it a million times. Okay. Hello, Necessary Truth. Casey, you're already on top of it. And you've done it. Hey Casey, are you a professional astrologer? Do you do readings for people and things like that? I'm kind of curious. Anyway, so let me go back over here a minute. Now, as you know, hello Olsen, I see you. Progress charts with solar returns. Okay, so you're kind of already ahead of it. Okay, you're already doing the homework and plotting out the rest of your year. That's fantastic. So I've tried to keep it as simple as I can and informative as I can. Oh, wait a minute. I missed a little. There's Mercury retrograde. Pluto, Saturn, and Mercury are retrograde right now. And by the way, towards the end of June, just going to let you know, like, where are we now today? What's today? The 9th and the 10th. Okay, so we're over here. Okay, there's Mercury retrograde, but look what happens towards the end of June. We're going to have Jupiter retrograde and then Neptune retrograde. Mercury's going to flip direct again, so that might bring some relief to some people. But then look what happens in July. Look at this. Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, retrograde, all month. You know how challenging Mercury retrograde can be. We can sense that pretty directly because Mercury is so close to who we are. If you look at your chart, Mercury is rarely more than 1 or 2 signs away from your sun sign. So just imagine Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto going retrograde. That's going to have profound effects on the whole of humanity, and the most of humanity are completely oblivious to these energy fields or these patterns or this sacred geometry. So they're going to be bumbling their way through it. But not us. Here at Terra Lumination, I'm just giving you a heads up. It's just like a little weather channel, that's all. That's really all we do here. Hey Casey, that's okay. Casey, it's don't worry about the interpreting. If you've got the ability to even bring up your own chart, bring up your own astrological profile, that is a huge leap in the right direction already. Because that's basically like the toolkit that you can access to get into the world of analysis and understanding of what it all means. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I still consider myself very naive and innocent and an amateur. And I've worked with some of the top astrologers, I believe the top astrologers on Earth. I've had direct interactions with them. And I've realized there's only so much that you can learn. After a certain point, it just becomes, well, what are we going to do about this? You know, there are certain astrologers who are super hyper technical, but what does that mean in terms of your life and how you feel? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you rich? Are you poor? Are you sick? Are you healthy? Most people just want the basics. What does this mean for me today, right now? Love, relationships, money, health, career, finance, the basics, you know? Anyway. So, think about this. The Gemini new moon eclipse is right here. Gemini, it's going to be all about communications. So, interactions, commerce, global finance, the machinery of global finance. As some of you are aware, I should put this in here. I'm going to put this in as a kind of a ongoing aspect. It's not exact to the degrees, but you have to understand, we've talked about this axis many times. Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius, so it looks like the planet is going back that way. So it's like tilling a garden. You go forward, then you go back, you go forward, you go back, you go forward, you go back until the work is done. But right now, on this axis here, okay, Saturn in Aquarius, that is testing humanity. How are we as humanity treating each other as humanity? Are we being humane? Are we being humane, human to human? Are we being humane towards nature, towards the commodities, towards timber, water, land, dirt, trees, oceans, forests, nature? Or are we being ultra hyper exploitive for the self? Okay? The Aquarius energy is almost utterly selfless. It's like, what is the self? The self is irrelevant. What counts is the group, the community. So Saturn is testing us. How humane are we? Human to human, humanity with humanity. Obviously, there's something very, very wrong going on. You can see that very clearly over here. You can see it very clearly over here. You can also see it very clearly over here because over here Uranus is in Taurus. So we're talking about the global financial system, okay? The global financial system is going through radical, profound, shocking disruption, upheavals, awakening, in order that it works for humanity. Uranus is very out of its comfort zone in Taurus. Uranus is actually the planet ruling Aquarius over here, okay? So can you imagine it? Now, I don't know if any of you folks are interested in it. I'm interested in it. I wrote a book about it. I wrote a little book about finance. There it is. A little book about at yahoo.com if you want to make donations. Thank you very much. I wrote a book about it because what I realized many years ago is that humanity is going through profound, massive, irreversible disruptions and upheavals in global finance at the global scale, but also to the microscopic scale in terms of your own personal finance. How does that work for you? your debit cards, your credit cards, your checking account, your source of income, your source of expenses, your debts, your credits. Okay, all of those things. Commerce. Think of Gemini as commerce. Think of Gemini as global commerce. Global commerce is essentially what we're talking about, is the exchange of energy as measured in the form of money between one human being and another, or one corporation and a human being, or between one human being and a corporation. And it's a very shocking, disruptive upheaval right now, because as you know from previous videos, I am concerned that we're dealing with a world of fake money versus honest money, real money. Fake money, true money. Bogus money, honest money. And they are both diametrically exposed. The people over here, and here benefit tremendously from the fraud that they perpetrate across planet Earth, because it works for them. Duh, it's really, really simple. That's how they farm us. They basically condition us into a stupor of acceptance, blind acceptance of what they are telling us is the truth, in order that they can farm us, which means harvest money or assets or wealth or abundance out of us, the individuals, for a small cluster of beneficiaries. It's absolutely staggeringly beautiful. Like, if you are one of these folks, or one of these folks, you guys have done an incredibly effective job of farming humanity to the extreme. It's the same as creating industrial scale farming of beef, pork, chicken, turkey, and seafood. Also, you could include soy, wheat, corn, rice, and all the other commodities like oranges, avocados, fruits and vegetables all across Earth. But they've taken it too far. There's only so much you could do. It's like strip farming, okay? Strip mining with coal mining and so on. There's only so much that you can do, and eventually you deplete the land. Do you remember what happened, I think it was in the 1930s, when the farmers in this area of the United States realized, my God, we can do massive scale farming if we just take tractors and bulldozers and rip out the prairies and plant it with corn, or plant it with soy, or plant it with wheat. And it worked really well up to a point until they had the Dust Bowl, when all the nutrients of the soil was depleted and there wasn't enough rain, and they started to realize, oh my God, the soil is dead. So then they had to reform themselves, and now they have much more advanced farming systems, but it is still strip farming, strip mining, and that's what they do on the corporate level for everything. Anyway, I think it's very unhealthy. I think there's a strong movement in very, very tiny partitions of society where there's people who are starting to say, enough is enough. We can't keep expanding the global population by billions of people every year, because planet Earth can't handle it anymore. We've got to, the people at the top, okay, these folks and these folks are starting to realize, my God, we've already taken the world of farming as far as we can go. In fact, we have to dial it back now. So it's like Here's an example. These folks over here, they have an extremely aggressive and highly abusive leadership, and they are doing everything they can to suck every amount of intellectual property, farm property, commodity property out of the rest of the world. Because they have to. They've got 1.4 billion people here, and they eat and poop and pee every day. Where does all that food come from? Where does it all go? These folks, they import more food than anywhere else on planet Earth. Most of that food comes from here, 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 and here. Okay? See what I'm talking about? And even now, they can't bring in enough. Even if they import everything all day, everything that they want, it's still not enough to feed this thing over here. So they are becoming extremely, extremely hyper-aggressive. They are accelerating and expanding their efforts to steal anything and everything they can from here. Most of it is by stealing intellectual property, things like seed information from Monsanto, and intellectual property information from the big corporations, and so on and so on. Anything that they can to subvert all the economies here and here and here and here and here in order to supply them with what they need. Most of what they need is food, water. Okay? So they're doing what they have to. It's like rats in a cage. Okay? It's literally, if you look at this as a big cage, this is planet Earth. I'm not a biologist. I'm not like too much of a tree hugger. I do eat meats and fishes, and I feel very sad at times for animals and fishes. But the way my body works, I definitely am healthier eating meats and fishes, but it makes me sad anyway. But if you look at this as the farm, imagine this. This is the farm. And this is the border of the farm. And the farm is full. The owners and the operators of the farm live in mansions and palaces in a few places over here, 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 a couple of places over there, there. But everything else is essentially part of the farm. And everything on the farm includes seafood. Okay, all the seafood over here and here is being and here and here and here is being aggressively, super hyper aggressively farmed, mostly by these folks over here and some of these folks over here. It's getting to the point where they are depleting the fish, the breeds, the different types of fish all over. The next thing is that there's so much pollution coming out of here, staggering amounts of pollution, because imagine they eat and pee and poop, and for all that stuff to happen, all the manufacturing that they do over here in the slave camps to feed us over here on the debt farm, they burn a lot of coal. So there's a tremendous amount of pollution. Remember, we've got 7.8 billion people here eating and pooping and peeing all day, every day. Every one of those people eats something. Whatever they are eating, it comes from the land over here, 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 or the ocean over here, or here, or here. And if it's from the land, they have to cut it and process it. If it's from the animals, they have to grow it and harvest it and process it, whatever it is. And then we eat it, and we create massive amounts of pollution. The thing we create most of all on this farm is pollution, poop, pee, and waste. A lot of it is plastic, a lot of it is carbon, a lot of it is just wasted materials that can't be recycled anymore. and so on. And you get to a point, just imagine you're the farmers over here, the multi-trillion-dollar managers of these farms, and you're starting to realize this is an amazing thing that we have, but we have to admit we've taken it a little bit too far. What are we going to do? Just imagine, okay? Just imagine we are in the office, in the family office of a handful of the global elites who are trying to figure out what we're going to do. It's just like, pretend I'm one of the global elites. I'm looking around, I'm going, you know what? We have this amazing, beautiful farm, and we've figured out how to do industrial farming to the point of not only cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, and seafood. We can do it with wheat, corn, rice, oranges, pears, apples, avocados, everything. And it works really well so long as nobody challenges us. All the slave camps over there in CHINA and AFRICA and, South America, and all those places where there's effectively a lot of poverty. And we've been doing it really well. It's been working really well. But it's starting to fall apart. Number one, we don't have any more room. If this is it, that's the farm, and we got 7.8 billion people, it's starting to become a problem. It's like the NIMBYs, not in my backyard. Even the super ultra rich and wealthy are starting to kind of go like, you know what? I live in this amazing, beautiful place, but it's starting to stink. That's my story. I lived right in Venice Beach. I've said goodbye to Venice Beach. It's one of the most amazing places on earth that I've ever lived and known. It's a bohemian heaven for artists, writers, and musicians. And the climate is just beautiful. The ocean's right there. The metropolis of Los Angeles is right there. It has the best food in the world. Food culture from everywhere on planet Earth. It's right there. It has the Hollywood and the movie business where I was working for like 20 years. I loved it. But I couldn't take it anymore, especially after March 3rd, 2020, when the big lockdowns happened. As you know, I wrote about January 2020 when the bomb hit. When it landed and went across planet Earth. As you and I all know, it's manufactured, it's staged, it's a completely man-made phenomenon, and now we're dealing with the consequences. So over the last year and a few months, I realized I couldn't take it anymore. I now live in Las Vegas. It's much safer and quieter and more peaceful over here. It's a much simpler life. But I'm very sad because I had to let go of this amazing place which became completely and utterly toxic. I was just swimming. I was trying to swim and live in a land where there was so much crime, chaos, perversion, theft, violence, murder, helicopters every day, shootings every day, assaults every day, robberies every day. Right in my neighborhood, right in my street. And in my old street, half of the people living on the street were humble working class families. The other few people on the street were multimillionaires. All on one tiny little block. It was the most bizarre environment. I couldn't take it anymore. I was kind of in between. It's just a very weird thing. I couldn't take it. And so that's just my experience. I just kind of like, my fuse is blue. I couldn't take it anymore. I guess that's kind of my Gemini Pisces thing going on. But what's happening is my personal experience, my little experience, is now spreading across the whole of Los Angeles. In fact, it's happening across the whole of California. Some of you might be of the opinion that the California economy and the politics are just insane. That's why so many people are leaving California. especially Los Angeles and San Francisco. It's because it's become very obvious now, you can't not see it, that it's completely out of control. All the fraud, deception, betrayal, lies, and deception that came at us, the average masses, from the elites media, turned out to be bogus BS. And they can't cover it up anymore. So the way it feels to me is just like, imagine I'm one of the super ultra elites, and I'm having a conversation with a cluster of my small group of ultra elites, and we're kind of going like, we've got a few problems here. We've got this amazing business model. We've refined it for the last 150 years, especially since 1913, when we created the Federal Reserve and all those things. It's working beautifully. All the human beings who are being farmed, they don't even know they're being farmed. But the problem is, they're starting to become aware. They're starting to ask questions. It's like looking at the cattle farms, the beef, chicken, pig, and turkey, and seafood farms, and it's all those animals are starting to kind of go, what are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? I'm a cow. I'm a pig. I'm a chicken. I'm a turkey. I'm a seafood, fish, crustacean thing. And I'm starting to realize you're really screwing with my life, my world, my people. I'm sick of it. I know you do amazing things with me and my body and my protein and everything. That's fantastic. You make pet food to fill the aisles. You make burgers and steaks and kebabs and McNuggets and all those things, but I'm getting sick of it. I have a right to live and be happy. I'm literally trying to absorb the feelings and trying to represent the feelings of these animals, because these animals do have feelings, okay? You have to understand that. I don't think humanity will ever move away from being carnivorous. But there's a way to deal with these things respectfully. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I think those folks way at the very, very top are starting to realize we got a real problem here. It would work so much better if we take our existing business model, but we drastically reduce the global population. Let's take it from 7.8 billion down to, 1 or 2 billion. And that'll be perfect. There'll be far few people pooping and eating and peeing and creating waste and garbage. It'll be a lot easier to deal with, climate change and global warming and stuff like that. So let's do this. You know what? Hey guys, let's talk about this. Guys and gals, why don't we reduce the human population? That's the answer. It's so simple. And the other folks say, well, how are we going to do that? Well, it's not as though people are going to line up to say, I'm willing to be reduced. You can eliminate me. I'm willing to be spayed and neutered. I will be first in line. I don't know if that's really going to happen. So how are we going to do this? Listen, Bill, you're really smart. You've got some great ideas. And some of your buddies like FAU, CI, and all that, you're going to think of something. What are we going to do? Oh, what was that? A virus? That's an interesting idea. So we take our farm and recover the whole farm with this virus, and we cull the herd. Oh, genius! Let's do it, boys. Let's do it. Let's get this guy called Klaus. He's the perfect one to send this agenda out there. He's going to package it and make it look glorious. Klaus is going to save the world, okay? It's going to be fantastic. Klaus, You take care of all that stuff, okay? We will feed you your lines. We will back you up. We'll support you. And we will provide you with the VIRUS and all the mechanisms for propagating the VIRUS all across the farm. And we will cull the herd. And in a matter of a few years, just a few years, we can go from 7.8 billion down to 1.3. Oh, that's genius! Let's do it. Agreed? Agreed? You want to do it? You all in? Deal. Done. Make it happen. So that's what I think is going on. That's my interpretation. I was just trying to act out the storyline. I don't know if that makes sense to any of you, but that's how it looks to me. That's how it feels to me. And I'm just giving you my perspective from the super, literally far away, like a super Sagittarius perspective. And what I'm trying to do is take the super Sagittarius perspective from out there and try to condense it into simple words that pretty much anyone who speaks English fluently would understand. You know, I'm not a scientist. I don't have lots of letters after my name. But I'm not stupid. I have opinions, thoughts, and beliefs and feelings just like any of you guys. Anyway, the thing about this eclipse, okay, this thing here, is that we're going through an evolutionary gateway. And what's happening is that it's taking us from here to here, whether we like it or know it or not. And with the Mercury retrograde happening simultaneously, and as we simultaneously, in a matter of days, dive into Jupiter, whatever I said, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto retrogrades, everything that's going on right now with Mercury retrograde, it's just, we're going to be diving much deeper. Just, you know what happens with Mercury retrogrades, okay? Kind of anything and everything that can go wrong will go wrong with those obvious things like, you know, your emails, your phones, your bank accounts, your communications, all those Mercury Gemini aspects of life, which are so closely tied to our experience of life. Mercury is never more than a few, whatever it is, degrees or signs from your sun sign. It's that close. That's why we are so married to our smartphones. And that's why smartphones and little chips, you know, injected chips, are being implemented across the world, you know. In a decade from now, pretty much everybody in Africa is going to have a smartphone. Same thing with Central America, all of that stuff. Because that's how they get to manipulate us. But there will be a resistance. Believe me, there will be a resistance, because there's going to be a certain number of people, including myself, who are going to say, excuse me, this is not acceptable. I'm on the side of humanity. I want what's good for humanity. I don't mind the idea of having a massive culling of the herd and coming down from 7.8 billion down to 1.3, but there's other ways you can do it. You don't have to go on a global viral slaughter in one generation to go from 7.8 to 1.3, which is, I know, what you would like to do. Human beings have to figure it out for themselves, consciously, by choice, by free will. And believe me, they will figure it out because they have to. Otherwise, you die. I think those folks up there, all they want to do is accelerate the program so they can enjoy the benefits in their puny, tiny, little microscopic lifetime right now. Ugh. Hello, Robin. I didn't see it. Hello, Necessary. I saw him. Hello, Jeff L. First time here. Wish you luck. Good luck, Jeff. Seriously. You've got strawberries and cucumbers growing right now? Well, you must be in a very fertile environment. Where are you located, Jeff? I'm very curious. Love Triber is trying to grow tomatoes and squashes and I think it's cucumbers and I can't remember the other ones. I know Path Traveler, I don't know if Path is here right now, but Path Traveler is cultivating a really, really strong, virile, active, healthy garden. Some of us are preppers, you know. It's all falling apart. It's the end of the world. It's all understandable. Let me just go over here again. Hey, Jeff, when did you arrive? Did you see any of us, what we were talking about with the astrodoodles and everything like that? And, you know, doomsday scenarios and the culling of the herd. Let me just show you. The last part of the conversation was when I was trying to describe this as a massive farm. This is the farm, planet Earth. And it's farmed by a very tiny number of elites. And they farm everything, literally. All the commodities, the plants, you know, corn, soy, wheat, orange, rice, blah, all of that stuff. Anything you can grow is a plant. And they farm everything that you can grow as animals, but particularly beef, pork, chicken, turkey, and seafood. And over the last, I would say, 130 years, they've realized they can farm humanity. And they've done an extremely good job. And it's happening, okay? So that's kind of where we got, Jeff. And, yeah, so that's where we are. And I think with this new moon eclipse here, this thing, is that we're at a point now where the massive scale of humanity is starting to question reality. Because humanity is being presented with a reality that is anything but real. And that's a problem for the individual. It's great for the farmer, for the global farmer. Food, you know. How strong is your shelter? How strong are your relationships and your friends and your family? How strong is your neighborhood and your community when things get really, really, really bad? All those kinds of things. Anyway, I was just curious, Jeff, because you just said you joined us. There's a bunch of people here, Jeff, in case you haven't met them. Introduce yourself, tell us more about yourself, your location. But a lot of the people here tonight have been here before, some of them many times. So if if you're already growing, Jeff, I'm kind of curious. I just thought I'd ask. Cheers. I'm not doing any readings tonight. I just wanted to do a rant. I used to do Wednesday rants, but they got shut down by, you know who, UOUYOUTUBE. There's a lot of things about me that they don't like. I'm still here, but it's, let's say on the margins. Anyway, so I'm glad we still have this. I'm not sure what to do next, but I just wanted to share what I'm feeling and sensing about this new moon eclipse with all of you, and hopefully that you can make the best of it so that you're not a victim. It's so important to be aware, like pay attention to the intuitive feelings, pay attention to the information. Give yourself permission to ask questions. Give yourself permission to kind of go, wait a minute. What was I thinking? What are my belief systems? Okay? What was I assuming to be universal truth when I'm now discovering its subjective truth. Not only subjective truth, but the subjective truth of a handful of elites whose subjective truth works very well for them, but not very well for me. Huh? Something to think about. The chances are anyone watching this show is not one of the elites. Okay? So, chances are you're more likely to resonate as one of the masses, one of the sheeple, one of the billions of humanity. But the lucky thing that we have here is that we're just a little tiny cluster of people who are, let's say, picking up higher senses, higher levels of awareness. Everyone here has a certain degree of HSP, high sensory perception. Each one of you, you wouldn't be here otherwise. HSP, are you an HSP, high sensory perception being? You are. I guarantee you are to some degree. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up now. I'd love for you folks to have a super evening and make the best of this. Ask questions. Give yourself permission to feel doubt. Give yourself permission to look around in a very, very neutral frame of mind rather than from a preconditioned frame of mind. Let's say, for example, if you're born and raised in such a way that you believe the mass media, give yourself permission to step back and ask a few questions. Start looking around. Do your own homework. Do your own research. Consider what is the alternate. Okay? I'm already on the other side of the alternate. I don't look at all that stuff. I'm aware that it's out there, but I don't factor it into my decision making unless it's something that I need to avoid. Okay? It's just like living your life driving down a highway. I don't want to get in a wreck. I want good things to happen. There's so much goodness out there. There's so much love. But sometimes it's very hard to access that when you start to realize that, oh my God, I'm on a farm. I'm being farmed. I have been farmed since I was born. Anyone who's alive today right now is either born and raised on a debt farm or a slave camp of some kind or other. That's it. That's only two types of farm. Debt farm or slave camp. Sometimes it's a combination of both. Most people in the United States, for example, are born and raised on a debt farm, whether you like it or know it or not. The debt is how they farm you. That's a whole other storyline. I don't want to go into that. All right, everybody, it's been wonderful. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you want, I do personal consultations if anyone's interested. We can go really deep. We can do total deep diving about how this works for you, how to make all this work for you so that you don't have to be a victim. Okay? Go to terraillumination.com. If you're a multi-billionaire and you want to donate, go to the terraillumination.com page where it says donate. I'm very receptive. If you want to book a reading, go to terraillumination.com and you can check the reading page, and so on and so on. If you have something very important you want to say, go to terraillumination.com and you can go to the connect page. See? It's really simple. All right. I'm going to wrap it up and leave it at that. Okay? Be loving, be loved. Love is as love does.